Welcome back to Superstarglam. My name is Janice and today's video is a Halloween masquerade tutorial. We are going to start off with primer. It's the Cover FX Blurring Primer. And then this part I struggled a little bit because this is my first time doing this, but I am taking Elmer's glue. This is a process that I've seen in the past where people glue their eyebrows so that they can cover them up with concealer to just have them not be in the way. So again, this is my first time trying it and I wasn't really successful. I am taking the fan to dry it to speed it up, and then I'm also taking some translucent powder to set. I think that why it didn't work for me is that I am very sweaty in my eyebrows. My eyebrows sweat a lot, and since this glue is waterproof, it was just melting off eventually. I'm taking this foundation. This is one of the foundations that I have in my collection that is full coverage, and obviously for this look I wanted to go full coverage. So I started applying it with this brush, and I think the other issue that I had was that I wasn't really very light when it came to the eyebrow area. So I think I just disturbed it eventually after going over it with so many products. Once I have this base going on, then I'm going to go in with contour. I definitely want to accentuate all of my features, so I'm going to go in pretty heavy, more than usual, with the contour. After going through this, I can honestly say that one of the steps that I should have skipped was applying concealer to the under eye. Eventually it does get in the way because that is where I create most of my look, so it does kind of clump up and become a problem, but I do get through it. So I am going in to highlight certain areas of my face. Since this look was a masquerade look, I still wanted it to look like I applied my face and I'm just wearing a mask over it. Now I'm just also contouring other areas of my face, like my mouth and my nose. My nose is another area that I am going to be applying most of the makeup, so I'm just contouring like the tip of my nose. Last year I did not create any Halloween looks, but I had purchased some products from Makeup Forever. These are the special effects makeup, and I was actually pretty impressed with the quality and the performance of this makeup. I'm starting off with the white one, and this is just like a pointy brush, and I'm kind of just using this to map out the design. I have a sketch that I am referencing and trying to just roughly map it out with this white paint. This is what I mean. I started going over my brows, and it's just every process, anytime I go over the brows, it just starts getting worse and worse. This step is just a rough draft, so it doesn't have to be exactly, it's just mapping out the design that I was trying to create. I also forgot that I hadn't primed my eyelids, and my eyelids were already getting oily, so I went in with the paint pot from MAC in soft ochre. Once I did that, I decided to switch up and use this colored pencil. I think this is from LA Girl, if I'm not mistaken. If I can find it, I will link it down below, but it's just a white pencil, and I just went over the rough draft of that paint, and it just helped to emphasize and create more lines. But the same thing started happening with the pencil. It was picking up all the other products, so I had to continuously wipe it down. Once I was happy, then I moved over to the other side. I think the hardest part of creating any look is the difficult part of making everything look symmetrical to the other side. After that, I went in with this sponge. This is a Real Techniques mini sponge, and I dipped into the special effects white paint, and I started to cover that entire area with the white paint. And I am going to cover up all the design that I made, but I'm still staying within the borders. I created the design and like the silhouette of it, so eventually I will go back and remap it out later on. And this is what I mean that if I had to do it again, I would have avoided the concealer, because the concealer started kind of meshing in with that white paint. So it was just a matter of working through that under eye. This was the inspiration for this look, the Sephora Pro palette. I recently came across it and was hoping I can put it to use because I love this palette. This palette has such beautiful colors. So what I did is I'm taking the white shade from this palette and I'm just using that to set the white paint base. This palette is just so beautiful and so pigmented. Now I'm taking a black liner pencil. You can take any black liner pencil. This one is the one I used that I had, and it's a Pixie pencil. The only thing about this pencil is that it actually was pulling more blue than black, but it's okay because this will just be the base. So I'm going to use this black pencil to kind of map out the shape. And again, I think the most difficult thing is to get both sides to look somewhat identical. And then I just use this pencil just to roughly fill it in. It doesn't even have to be perfect. I still go back in with a brush and blend it all out as much as possible without going over those lines I created. Then I'm taking the black from this palette and I'm going to use it to set that liner. And I'm just going to intensify. That's why it didn't really matter what color the pencil was coming out. I was still gonna cover it up with a black shadow. I'm going in with a much more precise flat liner and I'm going over the edges. I want to perfect that and make sure that it is sharp, like the inner corner and then all the angles and points. Once I'm happy with how this looks, then I'm going to move on. And I actually decided once I was looking at it that I didn't want it to just be black and white. So I went in with the pink shade from this palette and kind of start doing like a mixture of different colors. So I went in with this hot pink and just buffed it out in that inner corner, and then eventually I move on to different colors. So that whole white area is going to be different shades of color. Then move on to a more periwinkle blue, and I'm applying it as the next color. And this is where I realized that that glue was starting to lift up. I was sweating under all these bright lights. I was starting to sweat, so that wasn't looking that great. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It was just where I was placing these colors. Eventually go back and perfect it a little bit more by blending it out. After applying this orange, I wanted a much more vibrant yellow. So I decided to pull out my Jeffree Star Jawbreaker palette, and it had a really vibrant yellow in here, and that's exactly what I used for that bottom portion. And I'll keep going back and forth by blending it out and intensifying the color as well. I'm using this fluffy brush and just going over the entire thing just so that it's all seamless and you can't really see where the color starts or stops, and just going over all of the colors. Eventually, once they're all blended out, I do kind of go back in and further intensify whatever color lost its pigment along the way. So the next step is kind of also a rough draft. I went in with the felt pen, and that ended up being a fail because the cream and powder mixture from the makeup was drying out the tip of the brush, and I kept rubbing and wiping it on my hand, but eventually I was a struggle, especially around the eyebrow area. It was losing its pigment, so I kept switching from pen to pen because it kept drying out. And then you will see me keep going over, and again, this is just a rough draft because I do go in with the liquid liner afterwards, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It was just re-emphasizing the design that I had previously created. So now I have both eyes done. Then I was gonna go in with the other portion. I also stopped midway applying this black dot because I realized that I didn't want to do black. Since my design lines were black, they were just going to blend in. So I had to stop and think for a minute and thought that I was going to mess this up. But I didn't. I decided to continue and just do the outline in black. And this portion doesn't have to be perfect either, because the next step I will clean it up. I'm taking this Makeup Forever face palette, and there's this beautiful metallic gold in here, and I'm going to use that to be the color of my mask and what I used to fill in this area. And I was going in with this small brush, but then I decided to switch it up to this one, and this one ended up working out even better. It's a flat angular brush. It's really, really nice. It's really nice to get through in the detail and then kind of clean up and crisp up that black line, and then it's detailed enough to get through the crevices, like of the smaller spaces. Recently, I had pulled out a highlighter from Fenty Beauty and I was thinking to myself, what would I ever use this bright, shimmery, metallic gold highlighter for? And as you can see, ended up being the perfect shade, the perfect highlight to set that metallic color with. It was basically the perfect complement to that paint color. So this is me now going back with the liquid liner, and sorry for the angles because I really had to have the mirror right in front of me in order to prevent any mistakes. The only thing I probably would redo is maybe thicken up those lines. After I go over the details of the little swirls, I also do go over the outer portion of the mask. And once I'm done outlining the mask, I decided that I wanted to also clean up the eye portion. So I'm using that same liquid liner and just going over the edges of the eyes. Now, just because I wanted to create some dimension, I go in with that Sephora Pro palette and dig into the black shadow, and then I just go over the edges of the outer portion of that mask. Then after this, I realized that I never set the rest of my face, so I'm taking some translucent powder and setting the rest of my face with this small dual fiber brush. And after I finished that, I went in with no additional product, and I went over the border of the mask just to blend out. Now I'm going in with the Wet n Wild Big Papa mascara, and I'm just applying just a coat to my lashes. And then I also decided, just for fun, to apply this stick blush from Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics, and I felt like it gave it a realistic, you know, blushing cheekbones under the mask. I'm taking the Kiss Lash Glue Liner and these really voluminous lashes and applied them to my eyes. And to finish this look, I popped on this red lip, and I feel like this definitely completed the look. I really hope that you enjoyed this Masquerade Halloween tutorial. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you next time. Bye.